guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. So let me know, guys, a few of you guys in the comments have requested me do these kind of guides when we have a 10 times event, going over the 10 champions and, you know, sharing my opinions and thoughts on these champions. Today's going to be a double upload. We're going to try that out today. Let me know. Do you want to see more videos every time there's a 10 times event? Do you want to see me go through these champions, give my thoughts on them? I actually have all of these champions except for one, so I can speak from kind of first-hand knowledge on these champions, where I end up using them and where you can use them if you decide to pull. Again, let me know if you want videos like this every time there's a 10 times event in the comments. Big disclaimer here, guys. As with every 10 times event, you still have the same odds at pulling an epic and a legendary champion. So let me put it into layman's terms. You'd have to pull 200 void shards, you know, mathematically, to have a shot at pulling just one of these void legendaries. They're still incredibly difficult to get. It's still better, generally speaking, to save your shards for a 2-time summoning event. These are not 2-time summoning events. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and review these champions and then give my thoughts on whether it is quote-unquote worth it. So I'll make myself a little bit smaller here, starting out with Warchief. Warchief used to be an incredibly niche champion, only really used inside Faction Wars. Now he's good against Magma Dragon as well, because he has a provoke on his A1, and he has a provoke on his A2. On the A1, he has attack one enemy 3 times, a good champion for Giant Slayer mastery, has a 35% chance when booked of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. Damage increases is proportional to defense, inflicted is proportional to defense. And then on his A2 again, he has attack one enemy and then places a provoke for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. That's it. He has a chance of stealing buffs as well. Definitely one of the worst legendary champions in the game. He has this reflect damage on his passive, but at the end of the day, he has such high defense that he's not even taking that much damage to be reflected back onto the attacker. At first, when you see this, you're like, wait a second, I can put him on arena defense, he'll kill the nuker, right? He does 60% of the damage back, but it's not that easy, unfortunately, because again, he's not taking that much damage to begin with. He's not doing a ton of reflect damage, although it's better than nothing, right, at the end of the day. So pretty high speed for a big fella like this, but at the end of the day, he's really just used for Magma Dragon to land that provoke consistently on each of his abilities, and then in Faction Wars. So overall, still a pretty below average champion, but good now, at least in 1 or 2 areas in the game. Molly Tankard, though, however, is a tremendous champion inside this game. One of the better, legendaries out there in terms of crowd control, because she has a 3-turn when booked provoke. Also has a reflect damage on this champion for 2 turns. So again, plays a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, has a 50% chance of placing a provoke for 2 turns instead. That's great for Faction Wars. One of the best Faction Wars champions in the game, one of the most important Faction War champions in the game. Very difficult to clear Dwarves 21 without Molly Tankard. It can be done, especially as they're adding more and more Dwarves to the game every month, seemingly lately. But at the end of the day, really great champion. She also has a Cheers, revives an ally with 50% HP, fills her turn meter by 50% on a 4-turn cooldown, plays a block damage buff on that ally for 1 turn as well, and then her passive, Rowdy Crowd, fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% when this champion is hit, fills the turn meter of all allies by 25% when this champion is hit by a boss. So Molly Tankard, she's really an arena specialist along with Faction Wars, so she's really good in 2 areas of the game. However, depending on where you are, if you're in the mid game or, as opposed to the late game or the early game, she can help you out in much more than just, 1 area of the game. As you scale to the end game, she does have, more limited viability, but, great for Doom Tower, great for CC in Doom Tower, great to have a Reviver on Doom Tower, a really cool passive. I think that if you are struggling with Doom Tower progression, or you just want an arena CC champion, I think Molly Tankard is amazing. And again, for anybody who's having difficulty in Dwarves faction crypts, she's a tremendous S-tier champion. She really is. Now, speaking of S-tier legendaries, guys, we have an Orc Void legendary champion in Angar. He's the only champion I don't have out of these champs, so I don't have first-hand experience, but he's a good champion. His damage is based on HP. He has a 2-time hitter, place an extra hit if the enemy has a provoke debuff. That's actually important on Exacerbate, his A1, because Infuriate, his A2, it's an AoE attack, has a provoke debuff on all of them for 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown, reflect damage on all allies for 2 turns, also a counterattack on this champion. So he places the provoke first and then counterattacks for the 3 hits because it has the provoke on it. Really, really cool synergy between the A1 and the A2. His passive is, if an enemy with a provoke debuff attacks, has a 50% chance when booked of placing a provoke on them for 1 turn. Each hit taken will reduce the damage by 5%, up to 30% in 1 round, and then ally HP and faction crips by 44%. I'm going to pull a couple void shards. We'll see if we can get lucky at the end of this video and pull us an Angar. A really, really good champion, good crowd control champion, and really nice kit synergy on this champion. I'm a fan. Now, going on to the epics, we have Sandlash Survivor. She's a great clan boss champion, especially. Decent in Faction Wars as well. We'll talk about why. Increase ally defense in all battles by 25%. On the passive, really cool. On a 4-turn cooldown, places an ally protect buff on all allies for 2 turns when any ally's HP drops below 50%. Also plays a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn, all on a 4-turn cooldown on Born Survivor. It's a really, really good ability, really, really solid. Ally Protect is a tremendous, 50% of all damage she'll be soaking up instead. The reason I said she's pretty good in Faction Wars, I actually took her out of my team when I first cleared Orc 21, because the boss, the red boss, actually has an ability where he'll steal a buff from one of your allies, and he'll steal sometimes ally protection, and she'll die because, the boss is taking so much damage and she's soaking it up. So just kind of a heads up on that, but otherwise, a tremendous passive, a really good a tremendous aura, a really good passive, and then attacks all enemies, decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn, increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. Damage is based on defense. She has a nice high base defense as well on a 3-turn cooldown. Endless Sans, not dealing a lot of damage. She's not really a damage-dealing champion for the most part. Against longer, prolonged battles like Clan Boss, she can put out a decent amount of damage. Damage based on defense on the A1, and then has a provoke debuff on the target for 1 turn if this champion has no debuffs. Heals by 15% of the damage inflicted if this champion is under any debuff. So not bad on smell weakness on the A1 as well. Overall, Sandlash Survivor is an A-tier epic champion in my opinion. Next up is Crimson Helm. You guys know I am a huge fan of Crimson Helm. I lean heavily on Crimson Helm on my free-to-play account. If you watch any of my free-to-play series, you know that. So it has a decreased attack on the A1. On the A2, 4 times at random, each hit has a 95% chance, can be bumped up to 100% chance if you go and grab the, no, actually, the sniper does not work on provoke, my bad. So 95% chance at letting a provoke debuff for 1 turn, place a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn as well. Great CC there. It's not an AoE attack, it's 4 times at random, but still a great ability on a 3-turn cooldown. Angar, her A3 on a 4-turn cooldown is really good. Revive on death buff and an increased defense, the big version on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Really good kit altogether. Really solid champion. She has a very low speed, but a very high base defense as well. Increased ally HP in dungeons by 33% on Crimson Helm. Interesting that she has the HP aura when she's damage based on defense, kind of a defensive based champion. She's even a defense under the epic kind of category. And then we have Seneschal, who I actually think is a very underrated epic as well. On his A1, attacks 1 enemy, has a 40% chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns. On the A2, a perfect veil and a continuous heal buff on any ally for 2 turns on a 2-turn cooldown. Misdirect is a great ability. Again, perfect veil and continuous heal on an ally for 2 turns on a 2-turn cooldown. You can consistently land that, and he's very fast at 105 base speed. You love to see it from a support / defense based champion. And then Lordly Challenge is a counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns, and then has a 100% chance at placing a provoke on all enemies for 1 turn. So 100% provoke on a 4-turn cooldown for 1 turn with the counterattack, which leads him into placing way more leeches. He can consistently land leeches on a lot of enemies at a 40% clip because he's counterattacking as well, thanks to that 2-turn counterattack he's putting on himself every 4 turns when booked. So a really interesting and dynamic kit that I'm a big fan of. And then of course, Umbral Enchantress, one of my favorite OG epics in the game. A great champion overall. Damage increases as current HP decreases. Damage based on defense here on the A1. And her HP is going to be very, very low all the time because of Undying Evil. It's an AoE attack on her A3. It's a 5-turn cooldown. Has a 100% chance at landing a provoke for 2 turns. Places unkillable on her for 2 turns. And then block cooldown skills for 5 turns. She actually puts out a lot of damage as well. So you can build her with high defense and 100% crit rate. She'll be landing those provokes. She'll be kind of negating her own value for a while. But for 2 turns, she's going to have very, very low HP. And she's going to be putting out a decent amount of damage on the Essence Scepter, her A1, because her HP is so low. And then on her A2, it's an AoE attack again based on defense. 100% chance win booked at placing a block bust debuff for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Block bust for 3 turns is really, really strong. Now this skill, Immolate, is a little bit negated by the fact that it's always on cooldown for 5 turns if you lead off with Undying Evil. Either way, for Demon Spawn, Faction Wars, and for the arena, this champion shines. You can use her in other dungeons and also in Doom Tower regular floors as well. But all things considered here, when we look at all these champions, man, this is a really good bunch of champions. Like, better than average when we talk about the usual 10 times events. Is it worth it, guys? I mean, it's always going to be the same, the answer to that. Do you want to spend money irresponsibly on a video game? Yes, then it's worth it. And hey, I'm front and center. I'm somebody who spends money irresponsibly on a video game at times as well. But these champions are really, really good. The one that we haven't talked about is Krisk the Ageless, who I do think is one of, if not the best champions inside the entire game. On his A1, it's an AoE with decreased speed. On his A2, it's an AoE with Ally Protect and a continuous heal on himself. Ally Protect on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Continuous heal on himself for 1 turn. Increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. Damage based on defense on a 3-turn cooldown. Then on the A3, a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Increased defense on this champion for 2 turns. Increased speed debuff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. His passive is at the start of each round, places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns, equal to 50% of this champion's max HP. That's an amazing shield for the arena. You can put him on a defensive team, and this team goes last. A great team for the Nether Spider, so you start out every round with a shield. It's essentially a built-in shield set, and then has a decreased defense and decreased attack on the attacker for 1 turn when he is hit. And that's a 100% chance of landing. Might of the Ages is one of the better passives in this game. The only downside to this champion is he's not the fastest in the world, but in my opinion, again, I have a whole guide on this champion that I'll link for you guys. In my opinion, Krisk is certainly top 5 champion in the game. You could argue one of the best, if not the best in the game. Certainly before all the new champions were added before Lydia and stuff, I do think that he was up there with like Dracomorph and a couple others as the best champion overall in the game. He's a champion that if you unlock him and you're struggling, say, on Lizardman Faction Crypts, like stage 14, as long as you gear him out and max him out, you'll like clear 21. Like, I was struggling. When I unlocked him, I think I was stuck on like floor 6 or crypt level 16 or something. And then I got Krisk and I was like easily coasted all the way to 21. He's that good of a champion. He's tremendous. Also puts out a decent amount of damage. Provokes, continuous heal, increased speed, decreased speed, ally protect. You name it. OP shield. He's got it. So just for Krisk alone, yeah, worth pulling a couple Void Shards. And then Molly as well, in terms of non-Void Shards, is tremendous. All of these epic champions are great if you're struggling with progression or need a defensive aura for Clan Boss on Sandlashed. And then if you want an arena specialist, Umbral's pretty good as well. You know, to call her an arena specialist is really selling her short, honestly. But I'm going to open a few shards here, and then I'm going to open a few shards on my Game On account. You guys can check out my Game On account where I post daily. Sometimes shard openings, sometimes other fun stuff. Check me out there as well. And I'm still hosting a contest on Game On, by the way. Giving out $400 to a random poster this week. If you want to, record yourself on your device, iOS only this month, just recording yourself opening up a few shards or sharing a team you're really proud of, I'm giving out $400 to a random contestant who posts and uses hashtag Ash on their post on Game On. You do it all from your phone. It's nice and easy. Anyway, guys, this is the last shard for now. Nothing good here. Maybe we'll pull an Angar on the Game On. Who knows? Guys, thanks for watching. We'll have another video, like a proper video, coming to you later on today. Thanks, and as always, take care, guys.